All right, everyone. I said we're going to start at 3:05, but it's 3:04 and the admits have started to slow down a little bit. So we'll get this show on the road. First and foremost, I am Saray Mapp. I am one of the the planning and program development co-chairs of the Black Professionals Network. And I'm so excited that y'all are here. My co-chair, Kiara Venegas, is not here today and she sends her greetings. And so we're super excited for everyone to be here. We are doing today's panel in tandem with the Women in Housing Network. So I will let their chairs introduce themselves. So if y'all want to hop in.
I will start. Hi, everybody. My name is Maria Gomez. I am the Associate Director for Residence Life over at Kane University in New Jersey. My pronouns are she, her, and ella, and I am one of the co-chairs for Women in Housing. I'm happy to be in the space with you all. Kanika, you want to go next?
Sure, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Kanika McDonald. I'm the Associate Director of Residential Experience at Louisiana State University. I'm also happy to be here, and as Maria mentioned, I'm one of the co-chairs for the Women in Housing Network.
Perfect. Well, thank everyone for joining us. As mentioned earlier, today's panel is in collaboration with our Women in Housing network here with the QHOI. And so we're just going to discuss navigating the world of housing as women, specifically as Black women. And so I will be moderating today's session, and I'm super excited to do that. But some of our esteemed panelists, I'm going to give you a moment to share a brief, and I do mean brief, synopsis of yourself, okay? So I will introduce you first. Give me 1 second. My Google Home just started playing music. Hey, Google. We're back in order. All right. So as I introduce you, just give us a little spiel about who you are, what you do, and how you kind of got to where you are, but very briefly. So first, Miss Jasmine Lopez.
You're funny. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Jasmine Lopez. I'm currently the Assistant Director for the Office of Residential Life at University of Hartford for returner and graduate student housing. And I started off here as a resident director in the fall of 2019. Had a baby, got a promotion, and now we're here. And all of that started because I know some powerful women. Was that brief? Was that good? Good.
That was amazing. Amazing. Next, we have Dr. Allison Peel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Allison Peel. I go by Dr. P. I am the Associate Director of Academic Initiatives, Assessment, and Student Success at East Carolina University. And I started my journey in housing many moons ago, left housing and came back, but we can talk about spinning the block later.
Thank you. Miss Bailey Vick.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bailey Vick from Kane University in New Jersey, Managing Assistant Director. A little bit about how I started my journey. In 2017, I started as an RA, went from RA to Senior RA to Grad Hall Director to Full-Time Residence Hall Director, and now Managing Assistant Director.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Nikhil Burwell.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Hill Burwell. I currently serve as Director of Residence Life at UNC Charlotte here in North Carolina. You said brief. So I've been around a couple of SEC schools. Most recently, I was the director at the University of Oklahoma. I've only been in my role here for about 4 months now, but I'm pretty sure we'll get to some of that with some of the questions.
Awesome, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Christian Wells.
Hello, everyone. I have started, I'll say professionally, I started my career with grad school in 2008, and that was at University of Central Arkansas. And then I am currently the associate director at Mercer University. I've been at Mercer for 10.5 years, started as an area coordinator and have moved myself up. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you, thank you. So I wrote this beautiful paragraph about the intersectionality of being a woman in housing, but I'm not going to read that to y'all. We all know how we show up in these spaces, and we all know that sometimes it's difficult to navigate a space that wasn't inherently built for us. So that's kind of what we're going to cover today. And our first question is going to be along career trajectory. So the question, and we'll put those in the chat for you all as well. And everyone on the panel can answer this question. I would love for that. How have you navigated your career trajectory in housing as a Black woman? And what are your key experiences or decisions that have contributed to your success? And we will start backwards with Dr. Wells.
Okay, I wasn't ready for that. Okay, but I'm ready. Um, so I would say I'm a first generation college student. I will start there. So for me, my path was interesting in the sense of just being a Black person, right? It started there. Me coming from a very small town, majority Caucasian. And so for me, attending college and trying to navigate those resources, being a first gen college student was really um, it was interesting. I had a lot of people that really advocated for me. For instance, I applied to be an RA. I did not get it. So, but my resident director at the time, Chris Stokes, he's still currently at UT Chattanooga, but he really saw me. He reached out to me, and I was involved with orientation at the time. And he's like, "Hey, you wanna be an RA? I think you'll be great. I know you didn't get picked the first time, but I really do think that you would benefit from being a resident assistant." And so I think that's what really helped me in my career path, obviously to higher education, because one, I did not know that that was a career that you can kind of get involved with, right? And two, my parents were like, "Oh, you're going to be a doctor." Well, I became a doctor, just not medical, right? So I didn't even think I was going to get my bachelor's degree, and I have a Spanish degree. I was going to get my bachelor's degree, and that's it. But then, of course, just kind of, getting involved on campus, joining Greek life, being, in the choir, doing all these different things, being a big sister, really kind of showed me that this is the reason why I was able to be successful. And so with that being said, as a Black female, I always believe that it's important to reach out to different people within the field and outside the field to kind of have those conversations. And I am really thankful that I was able to, talk to former teachers, professors, and sometimes I thought they were against me, but they were really trying to help prepare me because I knew that I was the only Black female. I was only Black female in the major at the time, in a sense. So one of my professors, she really did kind of, at first I was like, I don't think she likes me. But she really wanted me to succeed. So she wanted to do things that were differently. So I understood that, as I became a senior. I didn't understand that at first. And so even navigating grad school, just kind of those conversations, I had a lot of Black women mentors, just really kind of navigate. And I really didn't see that. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't realize that there were so many successful women. And just really having those conversations with those individuals, and also not saying that I can't do something, right? I just went and did it. If I had an opportunity, I said, I'm going to do it. And that's it. Really, that's what it was. I didn't really say I couldn't do it because I was a woman or because I was afraid. I was afraid, but I just went ahead and took those opportunities. And I think that's kind of what helped me to kind of get to where I'm at now, because I don't necessarily always question if I can do something. If somebody says, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I'm like, "Ooh, sure, let's do it." I don't know what I'm doing. But just learning to navigate those resources. I hope that wasn't too long.
No, you're good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Jasmine, you're up next because I saw you smiling. Hey, girl.
I lost my cursor. Here we are. We're back. Thank you, Dr. Wells. I almost cried while you were talking, because not being chosen to be an orientation ambassador in undergrad and an RA at first, I was put on like an alternates list. It broke my spirit. Try to, because we're here, right? And I've been reflecting a lot lately just about how I got to this place today, right? They asked me to be on a panel. I'm excited. First of all, let's just start there. So just going back to that 18-year-old Jasmine and thinking like everything's done. I thought I wanted to be a social worker. I have my bachelor's degree in social work, and then I went back for my master's 5 years after 5 years after undergrad. Here we go. For higher education, student development, counseling. And oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I'm here. Because this is the place, and I didn't know this was a profession. I didn't know that there were powerful women that look like me. My mentor hired me to be an RA and has not let up on me since, right? That was a while ago. And I love that for me. I love that for anyone that I'm coming into contact with, because I'm trying to keep this going. There was a time I didn't see me in these spaces. So when I'm in these spaces, I take myself out of my body, put them into someone else's, and I'm like, I need to represent for all the little Black girls, right? Whoever comes across my desk, I'm like, I need to inspire this person, say these things that are on my spirit. Okay. Sorry, this is an overwhelming feeling. It's so beautiful. I'm gonna stop there.
Thank you for sharing your heart with us there. That was good. That was good. I felt that.
So beautiful.
Listen, okay, we're gonna go to Miss Bailey Vick next.
So for me, although I started off as a RA, it's definitely not something that I actually wanted to do. My parents actually made me become an RA, but thankfully that they did, because here I am today and I enjoyed it, just connecting with students and being a part of a team. So although now I am in the position that I am in, I think as I continue to move up the ladder within this field, I've also recognized that there aren't as many, Black women sitting in the seats of authority and having those decision making. So for me, as I move along, it's just continuing to put myself out there, challenging myself and putting myself in those conversations and spaces, so people could get to know who I am and continue to move up that way.
Thank you, thank you. And Dr. Nikhil Burwell.
So I sometimes think my career navigated me. I didn't necessarily navigate it. I too was not chosen to be an RA. I was put on the alternate list, but I got a job the following, like, they called me over the summer and it worked out. So I tell people all the time, I'm not a housing lifer. Housing chose me and I'm good at it. And that's how I've gotten to where I am. This is my second role as a director. And I will definitely say I'm a very social person. There are people in this call that know me. I am loud, outgoing, I'm ambitious, I advocate for myself. And that was one of the biggest pieces of that contributed to my career trajectory. I advocated for myself. And when I didn't advocate for myself, there were other people who were advocating for me. Really quickly, my trajectory was very fast. For some people, I literally was a live-in 4.5 years, not even 4.5 years, 4 years and like 28 days. Then I went to an assistant director role for 3 years. And then I left that role, not intending to leave that role, but someone saw something in me and recommended me for a position, applied, I got it. I became a director very young. One of the biggest things I did when I interviewed for that job was I took all of my years off of my resume. I didn't want people to know my academic trajectory because I wanted them to think, like, if I am a non-traditional student, you don't know what my path is. Even though I went pretty traditionally with one gap year, I was very concerned that people were going to look at me and say, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's a young Black woman. I was like, okay, like, let me just take this off the table for them. Like, you can Google me, LinkedIn, and find that information out, but I'm not going to give it to you on the front. And so applying to that first director role was a big deal. And then applying to another director role, making a lateral move, something I've never done in my career. I was able to do that and able to land a second job. And I swear, I don't know why these people, I haven't got hired to be a director twice. And I think that's crazy. But it's definitely advocating for myself, seeking out opportunities, taking advantage of things like this, and getting my name out there, but also letting my work speak for itself.
Thank you, thank you. And last but not least, Dr. Peel, give us your information, give us your insight.
I'm so glad to be last on this question because I feel like I'm a conglomerate of all those who have spoke before me. I was first gen. I was an RA. I thought I was going to be a res lifer for life, and I came into the profession because I was recruited as a Black woman who was attending an HBCU. I was recruited to a graduate program. Will not name the institution just for funsies, but I was recruited to a graduate program and got there and said, oh, this ain't it. This ain't for me. And if you ask people who know me across the field, I became the poster child of NCHO, the North Carolina Housing Officers Conference that year, to get me out of the space that I was in to a better space. And so that transition happened, and I continued to use my GA-ship in housing. And I loved working with students. I loved being residential. That part was fun. But then, as many of you know, you get to the place where you're like, I'm tired of living with people's kids. I can't do this. And so I took a brief respite out of housing residence life and started focusing more on academic services like advising, retention, things of that nature. And then somewhere inside of me, I said, I'm bored, and I got a doctorate. And so after getting my doctorate, while getting my doctorate, the pandemic hit, and we were in some weird times as far as work restrictions and requirements, working all these extra hours. And I said, well, if I'm gonna do this, I should go back to being live-in. And I did. And so I transitioned back to serving in a dual capacity where I was director of campus life and live-in staff at a small private institution here in North Carolina, which is how I met Saray because I hired Saray. And so that was a good time. And after that experience, I got married and moved to the Greenville area. And I did not come instantly back to residence life. I did more academic things. And like Dr. Burwell, people know me by spunk and attitude and being the one that'll say the difficult things. And that got me recruited for the role that I'm in now because it is a marriage between the academic supports and structures and housing and residence life. Do I think I'll be a pro-lifer? Probably not. But also, like, you know, those before me, I'm in this space for women who look like me because I'm the one in my area. So I honor this space. I am proud to be in this space. Some days it's heavy, but I'm grateful to be here. So women who look like us know that if you choose the profession, it is space for you. And even if you don't choose this profession specifically, you can still be a leader.
Thank you. Thank you. Y'all better answer those questions and answer them well. I love it. So that moves us on to our second question. As Black women in housing, what has been your most significant barrier or challenge? And how did you successfully, overcome that in your journey? So I'll let anybody answer this question in any order. I don't really have a specific order. AT just dropped that in the chat for everyone. Also, just as a disclaimer for everyone as well, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll answer them at the end, or we'll try to. But as a Black woman in housing, what has been your most significant barrier? And how did you successfully overcome that?
I'll jump in if that's okay. My significant barrier has been being Black in PWI spaces. So I am an HBCU alum 2 times, so I have a special place in my heart for HBCU experiences. Coming to work at a PWI was something I did by choice because I wanted to broaden my scope of experience and how I showed up in space. And oftentimes it's not what I know that's a challenge for me. It's what I look like. And so that's something we don't get to choose. And it's not something I can necessarily say I've overcome, but I am cognizant of it and I allow it to help me navigate the spaces that I'm in. So I use it very intentionally with how I make connections across campus and how I partner. So if there are initiatives that I would like to push that I know may get pushed back because I am the little Black girl, then I reach out to partners and say, hey, help me move this initiative forward.
Thank you. Dr. Wells, I saw you next.
Yeah, you know, I've been only at PWIs my entire experience. And for me, I think it's more of in supervising, there are individuals who you're trying to advocate for, but they don't feel that they're being advocated for because you obviously can't share everything that you're advocating for in a way. And with that being said, there are also individuals who are not going to necessarily go with your decisions as well because you being a Black female, where you may see your other colleagues, they don't even have a question about it, right? So I've kind of experienced that more so. And that's been challenging because I'm thinking, what can I do to, you know, really make these individuals understand that, you know, at the end of the day, I'm still gonna, you know, be your supervisor and I still have a job to do. Um, and, you know, I even had a staff member try to go to another meeting because they did not want to be with me, right? And luckily that coworker was wonderful. She was Caucasian and she said, you know, I just want to let you know this person was trying to come over here and you know, and I was like, I appreciate you because she was an ally. And so what I have found is that having allies that do not look like me is also beneficial. And I think sometimes it doesn't feel that way all the time, right? It seems like it's opposite. But for me, that has been something that has always been very helpful. I've been thankful for that. I've actually had individuals who understood sometimes a little better than sometimes my own people in a sense. So I think that has been I'm still trying to navigate that, right? Being in rooms where you're the only one and you don't want to come off as being, you know, the angry Black female, right? Because the way my tone or because the way I'm processing things and because I'm passionate, it looks differently for me, right? So I think those are the challenges I'm still working to overcome day by day. Even my facials, like my facials are just, ooh, they're horrible. So, and I tell, you know, some people, me and my colleague, we used to say, hey, if we start a face, just let me know if I'm looking a certain way, right? And I've actually even had to, look to other Black female mentors who were in higher levels to say, please help me to navigate these conversations because I'm having a hard time. Because this individual is very difficult and they don't seem to understand, and I don't want to lose my job. So I've had to be honest with that, and that has helped me as well to be able to take a step back and ask for help.
Oh. I've been having a hard time navigating. I was a case manager for 5 years out of undergrad, and then transitioned into the resident director role and started my master's program like the same semester. So as a case manager, I was able to advocate for families that look like me. My coworkers look like me. My boss looked like me. Everybody looked like me at that place. And we were able to go into the community and speak the same languages, say the same things, and everybody understood. Then when I got here, all of that was uprooted. So I was able to take some of the stuff that I used as a case manager for that 5 years, but then I had to figure out who are my allies here. Sometimes I had to read between the lines of what people were saying, and I'm like, why won't they just be direct? Oh my God, what are they saying? And then it's that outreach too to the network that I have in higher ed and that I'm building, because I feel fairly new here. Just navigating, like, this is what I heard. What did you hear? Do we hear the same things? Right? Figuring out, was that a microaggression? Right? Because I have to ask these questions now because, like, did he just say that? Okay. But I'm extremely grateful for being able to have spaces where I can have those conversations and outwardly process, and have come across supervisors where they don't look like me, but I can say these things and they receive it in the way where, I don't feel like I'm going to lose my job. Sometimes I do, right? And then I check myself because I got to look out for me at the end of the day, right? My boss may say, no, you're fine. I don't know. I might not be fine. I don't know, but I'm just going to make sure I got my stuff together. So I guess it's something that I'm absolutely still managing, but has gotten better since 2019. So that's good.
I would say for me, my most significant barrier challenge has been myself. Not properly advocating for myself, not speaking up when I saw things go wrong, not taking advantage of opportunities when they were laid out in front of me because I didn't think I was ready or I didn't think it was my time. Successfully overcoming that was owning who I was, like setting those boundaries and saying, like, no, like, this is not right. Asking those questions. Yes, I can be known to be the person that's challenging, but I'm also known to be the person that cares the most and advocates the hardest. And I'm okay with those labels. I think that you have to be willing to accept what has the task that has been laid before us. As one of the only Black women at many institutions that I've worked at, I've had, of course, I was automatically going to be labeled certain things, and not necessarily saying I fit those stereotypes. Some of them I do. I am loud. I'm naturally loud. Like my mama loud. She don't do this work, but she's loud. Like my family's a loud family. And, I am very passionate. I feel a lot, but I also know how to advocate for myself. I know how to make you uncomfortable, and I thrive in conflict. I have no problem addressing a concern or bringing it to your attention if I feel that, hey, this isn't right. And that's something that a lot of people aren't used to, especially as a Black woman. It's already coming off as a negative thing. But when I'm telling you, like, listen, I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm going to address a concern with you. So when I've had those supervisor concerns that you spoke of, Dr. Wells, I understand, like, listen, I'm noticing this, what's going on? Like, we need to have a conversation because I know who I am, and I know whose I am, and I know how you're not going to talk to me. And I'm very clear with my team and things like that. Like, don't allow people to disrespect you. Don't, like, you wouldn't let your mama talk to you like that. This person, they shouldn't talk to you like that. And so I think that getting out of your own way sometimes and being your authentic self as best as you can professionally is something that is helpful, and it's something that's helped me. And I also recognize that I am an extrovert. I am not an introverted person. So that looks different. And I think people also have to understand that you can be just as confident and an advocate and just as passionate as I am, but be a hardcore introvert, because I know women who are like that as well.
I think for me, similar to what Dr. Burwell stated in the beginning, it's definitely the struggle of advocating for myself. challenge between, you know, accepting what's been offered versus asserting your worth. And I think it also could be daunting, you know, speaking up, especially in environments where, you know, our voices aren't always amplified. But I think overcoming that is, you know, seeking out those support networks that's going to, you know, put you in those environments to grow, but also knowing your potential and your worth and what you could bring to the table.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So this is going to move us on to our next question a little bit. I'm going to go out of order from the ones that I sent y'all in the email. Sorry for this. So in a time where DEI is kind of being combated, it's been moved around left and right, kind of what that looks like. Give us some steps that are crucial for promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in housing specifically for the advancement of Black women. Because we talk about advocating for ourselves and advocating for women that look like us. What does that look like for you? How has that been navigating for you? And we'll start with Jasmine.
All right, friends. Very connected to what I was just talking about. When I first got here, I was one of the only Black persons in this department. So I had a lot of questions and I didn't have enough answers. And so being able to bring a team of people on and have them understand what the objective here is, and it's the advocacy. I go back to that a lot. It's a large part of the work that I've been doing, but just continue to advocate and know who you're advocating for. And again, I'm still learning, but this is just what I've picked up so far, is I need to know the population of students, exactly what their barriers are, what it is that they're looking for, what their needs are. And I have to be able to explain that to people so they can continue to explain it to the higher ups. Because I'm learning, it's politics of higher ed, right? We have to say all the right things to get all the right things back to the population who's in need. So I'm just literally never gonna stop doing that, because in Connecticut, we aren't seeing those drastic changes that are more south, but it's scary though, because like, what if those do come over here? So I don't know, it's scary altogether. But for me, I'm just gonna make sure my team and we just don't stop advocating for these identity groups that are in need in housing, because they're not gonna stop coming to school. They're gonna keep coming here and they're gonna continue to have needs. And the students who don't have the parents that call and are like, you know, I can't afford this cancellation fee, or I can't do this, I can't do that. I still need to reach out to those students, even though their parents aren't as loud as the other ones. So I work with a lot of students that come from privilege, period, right? Recognizing that, I have to explain that to people who may not understand that, because we need to basically keep that same energy for the people who have backing, that have support, as well as for the students who may not have that. Like, we shouldn't stop getting them what they need just because they don't have someone calling here on my phone screaming that we need to change processing, whatever the case is, for those students.
Thank you. Bailey.
I think for me, the first priority is the active recruitment and retention of Black individuals. So just actively implementing strategies that attract candidates that are from these backgrounds. And I think the other part is just creating, open spaces so we could have these conversations and collaborate to keep these DEI initiatives going.
Thank you. If there's also awkward pauses, y'all, I'm over here taking notes. I'm already like 3 pages in, so y'all are doing great. And we're gonna do one more panelist on this one. Dr. Burwell, what you got for us?
I would say what's crucial for promoting it is embodying it. We use, over the years, diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm not gonna say they became a thing, but they became buzzwords. The work was already being done, and then somebody put a label on it. Now they're trying to take the label away. We have operated without the label before because we were already doing the work. Somebody just said, what are we calling this? So now what we have to do is embody the work that we're doing and not necessarily having that label, because they're taking the label away. We know that we're losing those labels in some of our southern states. And we can acknowledge that, but that doesn't mean the work stops. I can spend a block on some words. We can do some wordsmithing here and say this is this. But my question is, when you're planning an event or a program, or you're recruiting women of color or people of color to your institution, are you asking the hard questions? Where are they going to be left out at? Are we thinking about where, same thing like we do in a program for our students in our residential communities? Is this program going to be accessible? Can everybody get in? If they're on crutches, if they have a wheelchair, are they going to be able to engage in this program? Do we have microphones if someone can't hear and they haven't told us their disability? It's making sure that you do the work on the front end to make the space already inclusive, but also understanding that we're always learning and growing. You're going to make mistakes and you have to learn from those mistakes. You can't make the mistakes and sit in it. You have to make the mistakes and then make the improvements. We are not perfect. So I think that in order to continue promoting it, we have to embody it and we have to let people know we're serious about it. And it's not just the fun thing to do right now. 2020, we found out that it was cool to be the Black girl because all the girlies was getting hired. They was getting all the chief diversity officer positions. And then in 2022, 2023, they were like, oh yeah, bye. It was fun. It was cute. Bye, y'all. Now, what are we doing to make sure that we're maintaining that and holding people accountable?
Come on now, you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful, and I loved all of it. I'm over here snapping, just snapping. Okay, wow. Okay, y'all done threw me off. What specific strategies or advice do you have for Black women to effectively network in the realm of housing, and in higher education, considering we have some unique challenges in this field? And we'll start with Dr. P. All right.
I feel like that was intentional. Networking is the thing that I love to do. I love peopling. I like getting to know folks and connecting people. A couple of my students are on this call. Hey, y'all. Because I talked to them about this experience and like Dr. Burwell said, putting your name out there. If this is something you want to do, making sure the right people know who you are, you have to be strategic. It feels almost as if you're a kid and your mom's like, the stove is hot, don't touch it. Well, is this stove hot or is the stove lukewarm? Is this stove safe? So you have to kind of feel your way through the field and the experience. And I will own it. I have made connections at times that were not the best, but you learn from experience, right? Like you touch the stove, oh, that's hot. Won't touch that again. Okay. But in my space now, and my students are probably screaming now when I say this, I am intentional about every person of color, every advocate, every ally that I meet. I connect them to each other, right? I am good at sharing my network out because I want people to have systems on the off chance that my job is no longer safe. Whatever that looks like, there will be someone here that will be that for them. And when I conference, it seems as if this is a common trend for a lot of us Black women in the field itself, but also in housing. We find each other, right? We're like, oh, okay, you my sister. Let's look out for each other. Let's connect. Let's stay in touch. Like sorry, when you left North Carolina, I said I'm in your corner for life. So know that, and it's always important to me that people know that it's authentic, and that when you're making these relationships, it's not just a one-time connection. It takes work to foster relationships. It takes work to keep your network strong. I will also plug what I call my sister circle, 5 women who I met at a organization in 2018. We were in the same cohort of a Black higher ed program. And we have kept each other accountable day to day, every day. Our group chat is on fire about everything. But I know at the end of the day, they are lifting as they climb, and I hope to do the same. So when I need advice about what's next for my career, like Dr. Burwell said, when I'm like, I don't know that I'm ready for that, they're like, no, sis, get that resume together because you're ready. And so you need those people, that circle that will push you and pull you when necessary. And I try to do the same, push and pull folks, sometimes at their level of comfort, sometimes a little more of a nudge than they would expect because, sorry, I'm gonna pick on you. Sometimes we can be our own barrier and say, I don't know that I'm ready for that. And you've got to have those people that are willing to champion you or push you into that space.
I love that. Thank you. I call them my board of directors, and you own it. You got a seat. All right. All right. Dr. Wells, we're coming to you next.
Well, of course, I love networking. I am an introvert. It doesn't seem like it, but I am. And it's because I had to realize, even as a college student, that I realized in order for you to, be successful, you had to network, right? And that was the biggest thing that I took from that. I took that from some wonderful people that were my mentors in college and also even in high school. And so for me, primarily, um, I think I connect with people regardless. If you are, looking to do something like you say you have a favorite TV show, right? I'm all talking to you about it, trying to figure out your interests. And then I'm going to also go into your professional goals. And this may be like a 5 to 10 minute conversation, right? But I'm already, connecting with you as a person first. So that way you understand that I won't care about you as a person and I want the best for you as a person. And especially for our minorities, I'm always advocating for us even more so because sometimes, you don't have people to advocate for you, right? And so if I see an opportunity, then I'm going to say, well, why don't you go do this? Yeah, sure. I do this all the time to my staff. They're like, and some of them are on the call as well, but I'll say, hey, you should apply for this or you should get involved and they're like, what? And that's why the GHO board is mostly, our Georgia Housing Officer board is mostly Mercer people because I really navigated them and said, you could do this. You're going to be great, and they have done amazing, and I think, just really pushing others and also not being stingy with opportunities. Like, right. Sometimes people feel like, well, I'm going to do it because I do it the best and I don't want anybody else to do it. Why? Like, share the wealth. You can only do so much, especially as you move up, you get burned out, like you're tired. So for me, even with this position, I actually changed the organizational structure because we had some staff leaves. And you know what? I got 3 assistant directors. Now I do have a very minority staff. That's the first for Mercer in a very long time. And it's been great, and they are amazing. And I continue to advocate. And if somebody, questions anything, then I'm ready like a mama bear to say, hey, why are you questioning? So so I do. I think it's important to get people connected early on, but get to know them as a person, just like we do with students. We do the same thing. We try to connect them, but sometimes professionals don't feel the same connection when they're interviewing on campuses or they're even meeting you at a conference. Like, people observe you at all times. You don't know who's watching you. And that's what's happened. Like, I didn't expect to be on a panel. It's all right. Thank you. I was very honored for her to ask me. So I think, once again, you never know who's watching you and really, saying, oh my goodness, they're doing amazing. You may not feel like you're doing amazing, but somebody thinks you are. And I think sometimes we have to remember that. But also just feel free to give up resources. There's plenty of things out here to do for everybody. There's a place for everyone in this world. And I think that it's okay to share those resources and be open. It is very political within housing and higher education. And so anytime I notice someone, even with, just pronunciation of words, things like that, I'm going to pull somebody aside and say, well, this is the correct way to say it. And I'm only giving that to you because there's how other people are going to look at you in the future, right? Because people are judgmental, unfortunately. And so, especially for minorities, we have to kind of advocate a little more for that because it is what it is. It's what we know. But, I tell them, don't take offense. Somebody corrected me. I used to say it nervouses me all the time, and I didn't know I was saying it wrong until my supervisor goes, it nervouses me. It's really cute though, Christian. I'm like, no, it's not. It's wrong, But I said that, and they corrected me, and so that helped me to recognize that I was utilizing that language wrong, and I think it's okay to do that to others in a loving way, right? Of course.
Very well said. I'm still learning how to take correction with grace, so I completely understand. Bailey, what do you have for us?
I think for me, it definitely involves being proactive, strategic, and intentional. So, taking that initiative to connect with others and not waiting to see if it's going to happen on its own. And just being strategic and identifying those individuals in higher ed and housing that correlate to your values and interests. And just being deliberate in those conversations, but also selling yourself and what you could bring to the table, I think is important.
Awesome. Thank you. And who we going with? Jasmine, what you got for us?
Everyone who spoke before me, all beautiful, right? I'm not going to repeat all of those amazing things. I would say the self-doubt piece is really speaking to me because imposter syndrome, what the heck, right? That was a thing. So that doubt is loud. I went to Hawaii for the first time. That was my first conference, and it was big. It was a lot. I was like, oh, what do I do? Had a slight freak out, but I'm like, I need to put myself out there because they paid for me to come here for a reason. So it's all that self-doubt, honestly, I left it in the hotel room and I went to every single session, every what do you want to call it? Reception at the end of the night, and just put myself out there, ask questions. I was open to learning because I want to know about all of these powerful Black people specifically in this role, just because it's my favorite identity. I want to know about y'all. So I'm asking the questions and I'm receiving this information. I'm taking notes, business cards. So I think it's that and not being afraid to spin the block on somebody that you connected with at a conference or wherever you met this person, to ask additional questions, inquire about their journey. I just ask a lot of questions, really, because the knowledge is there and it's free. It's a free game right now.
Very well said. We're gonna move on to our very last question, Dr. Burwell. I'm coming to you first for the last one, so be excited. In your experience, what role has mentorship, playing off the last one, played in your career development, and how can Black women in housing seek and cultivate meaningful mentorship relationships within higher education? So, Dr. Burwell, we'll start with you.
I definitely think you have to know or have an idea when you say you want to mentor. Number one, I've had people come up to me a lot and like, oh, I want you to mentor me. Sure, of course I will, because you're not going to follow up. And it makes it's easy. Like, I'm not going to tell you no, I'm going to say yes, because you're asking me to be your mentor, not necessarily me specifically, but you're asking someone to be your mentor. You are the person asking for this relationship. So you need to maintain it. If like someone asks me that and they show me that that's what they want, absolutely. But you can't be afraid to ask. If there's someone out there, you see them moving in a way that you're like, hey, I'm trying to move like them, or I want them to connect me. Because if I don't have capacity or I don't think I'm going to mesh with somebody, I won't just say yes. I will say, I don't know if I'm the best fit. Let me get you over here to this person. I think it's also important to know that your mentors do not have to look like you at all. I have many mentors that don't look like me. And when I tell you they are my biggest champions, the reason that I am on this call right now is because somebody who does not look like me gave my name. And I got the email. Like, they are the people that are in my corner advocating for me. And I think sometimes we get in that pigeonhole of where, well, they don't look like me, so I can't go to them. I've had white women hold me down. Some of them, not all of them. But I've had some who have been there in my corner, had my back, who've advocated for me, who said my name when I wasn't in spaces. And I've also had Black women do that, but I've also had Black women tear me down as well. So I think you have to be very intentional about the relationship that you want. And if you're serious about it, you need to set parameters. You need to have boundaries. Like, I want to check in bi-monthly. I want to check in at this time, or I want to call out to you, or can we grab coffee or do a Zoom? Maintaining relationships these days is really not that hard if you truly want to do it. We have access to so many different things that we didn't before, and now it makes it a lot easier for you to cultivate and maintain those relationships. But you need to when you decide that you want to enter a mentorship relationship with someone, you all need to discuss, what does that look like for you? How often do you want to talk? Is this going to be the right fit? Is this a short-term thing, or do you want me in your life long-term? What are the parameters? When are you going to contact me? Am I just the person that you contact for, hey, I'm applying for a job and I'm hitting you up once a year? And that could be it. And that's fine. But making sure that you know what the give and take is when you're entering that relationship. Also finding the best fit. Don't just seek people out or that you see doing stuff. They might not be a good person. Make sure you do your research. Learn about people. Ask around. I think this field is very small, and you will find that you may know people or see people, and we leave little breadcrumbs along the way in our careers, and we touch people. So if you know, like, hey, somebody's trying to do something, hey, you should reach out to this person. I'm the type of person that I am that person. People are like, oh, you should ask Nikhil about this. And I'll get an email from random people asking me questions, and I'll answer because I know that somebody that I've trusted or has trusted my advice or encouragement has given this person my name for a reason. So I think you just have to be very intentional and make sure you know what you want to get out of the relationship. And if you don't know, you are articulating that to the person so they can help you kind of figure it out.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's go with Dr. P.
Yeah, so I would say much like Dr. Burwell, my strongest champions are people who are similar to me, but not exactly holding the same identities. Um, we all know that like it's a tussle in our field for women because sometimes women can be competitive and catty. But with men, sometimes male privilege shows up in ways that we can't even start to discuss in the time that we have here today. But I have found that there are a couple of men who are just genuinely good people. They just happen to be male. They have been my champions in my career, and they've been the ones to be the plug for me. But I talked about my sister circle. Those women are where I'm trying to get to. So it's always important to meet people who, you know, are that next step or two or three above where you are, and be intentional about fostering those relationships. Um, I mentorship can even just look like someone taking a chance on you. When I took my first non housing role or non student affairs role, even someone looked at my resume and said, she's got the transferable skills. Let's just see what she can do. And being able to, I think it was Bailey that said, you have to be able to sell yourself. I stepped in the space and said, look, very transparently, these are the things that I can do. These are the things that I'm willing to learn. And so being able to be honest with myself in that, and then expecting that those people who I call mentors will hold me accountable to learn the things that were gaps for me. That has really helped. I have mentors that are seasonal, some who are coaches for me in certain seasons that will say, hey, it's time for you to go in your game to do X, Y, and Z. Others, like I said, my sister circle, I talk to them every day. And so, you know, I hear from them. Even some of my mentees, we function the same way. Some of us, I talk to them monthly. You know, they know about my family life and my baby and all those things. There's others who are just like, hey, just let you know, I put your name down. I'm applying for a job at XYZ place. Or I get the email from X, Y, and Z place and I text them like, is this real? Like, did you really apply for this? And they say, oh, I forgot to let you know. But, you know, it's okay. We have those different levels of mentorship relationships. So it's fine that we flow in those ways. And life be lifing. So I understand that sometimes you can't always keep up with people. And I can't keep up with y'all. Like, I will tell people, and I know we all joke about this, but like, if it ain't on my calendar, it ain't happening. So please book me. I know it sounds so arrogant to some people, but book me. I tell my students, even if you just want to come talk, we ain't got to talk about nothing. Book it on my calendar so I have that placeholder that I can dedicate for you because I care about what you have to say. I care about what you're bringing, but I can't be effective if I don't have that time dedicated in that way.
Thank you. Thank you. In the interest of time, we did have a question from the floor, so then we'll open it up for Q&A after that. The question from the floor that was messaged to me was, how do you navigate being a young Black woman in housing, managing folks who have been in housing almost as long as you've been alive? And anybody can answer that question. Go for it. Dr. Wells, I saw you first. And then Dr. Burwell will go to you, and then we'll just go down the line. All right. But let's, you know, in the interest of time.
Yes, it is definitely a challenge to do that, especially when you're younger than the staff you supervise. What I have found is that you definitely need to build a relationship with them outside of work, right? And I say that not necessarily outside of work, but you definitely need to have those one-on-one conversation meetings to get to know who they are, so you can build that trust. And I think that's important. And you may not have as much in common, but I promise you, if you take time to acknowledge who they are as a person, then they are going to build that trust with you. And to be able to say, hey, well, how is your family? How, how is, the dog doing? Or how, those types of things, because they value that a little more, because once again, it's a different time, right? You're thinking about if you have people that, were in a time where social media wasn't as prevalent, then they're going to be more so to have those one-on-one conversations. And then also asking their perspective on, their experience and really just kind of honing in on that. It's going to take time, but once they, get to talk to you and build that trust, then they're going to be the best ones for you in your corner. And that's what I totally, I was really nervous about that as well. Cause I'm like, oh, and I'm short, I'm 4'11", like, okay, so that's, that's issue, Dr. Bill. That's an issue, sometimes for me already as a short woman, but, I think that really has been my experience, and just, really treating people like people, and just recognizing that sometimes you just can't go in there and say, do this and do that. Okay, who are you? you know? So just really taking that time to build those connections.
Thank you. Dr. Burwell, I think you were up next.
I would definitely, I've been in this position. I mean, I think there's so many levels and layers to it. I supervised someone who had applied to my job and I got the job over them and they were older than me. And it was a white male. And that was a lot. It was like, hey. So sometimes you just have to call it out. I get it. I know my age, you know my age. Once you meet me, you've made an assumption. You know it. But I think you have to be transparent about the relationship. I was hired here for a reason, to do a job. This is gonna work so much better if we can collaboratively work together. And just being upfront about those things, because also understanding that when you're new to a role or someone's been there longer than you, they have historical context. So definitely agreeing with Dr. Wells of getting to know them, getting to know, like, you know, how was this done? Because you're the new young person coming in, potentially in their mind changing everything. Because that's all they do. They hire us to change everything. And that's not necessarily the case. We're here to assess and see what's working and what we can do to make it better or to improve it or to help it. Not saying that it's bad, but just to continue on. But I definitely think you have to be willing to have those difficult conversations, because sometimes you'll find people put themselves in not so good work situations where they are, and it's tough. And supervision is hard in itself. So you want to add on a generational gap and then your attitude, I don't need that. So we need to have an open and honest conversation about how we can work together to get the job done. And if we can't work together, we need to figure out where you're going to be going next, because I'm probably going to stay. So sometimes you have to coach people out of their roles. I'm not trying to be funny, but I am very transparent. Sometimes you have to coach people out of their roles because they've been allowed to stay there for so long and there hasn't been a lot of change. And you coming in, you're already shaking things up. And you have to help folks find what's best for them.
So eloquently put. Jasmine or Bailey, who wants to go?
I'll go. So for me, I necessarily don't supervise those that are older than me. It's more so those that are the same age as me. So I think that also is a little bit difficult. I became assistant director when I was 24, 23. I'm only 25 right now. So I think the challenge is, I think someone said before, just, getting to know them as a person and building that relationship and trust, I think definitely helps. But also trying to collaborate and see where you guys' ideas could come together. And I think, like, lastly, just being confident in yourself and asserting your authority and knowing that, as I believe someone said, that you were hired for this position for, a reason as well. So being confident in your role and not letting them overstep boundaries is important.
So I'm over here. I said amen like I'm in church. Y'all did so. Y'all are wonderful. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. I've been eyeballing the chat over here, so if I look crazy, that's what's been going on. I don't think I missed any questions. But if you look in the chat for everyone, you will see several updates from BPN as well as Women in Housing. Our Women in Housing chairs, do you have anything that you want to say on the mic in terms of updates?
Hi everyone, it's Kunika. I just want to say thank you everyone for just being here, and the panelists, you were amazing and echoed a lot of things. I'm like, yes, I agree. But the biggest thing for us is we're open to collaborate. So if anyone would want to work with us on anything, please let us know. That's Maria and myself. We're growing and mighty, and so we're trying to start some committees up. And so if you know of folks who are interested in any co-chair opportunities or just getting involved with the Women in Housing Network, please reach out to Maria and I. But we're very happy to be here and we loved this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you as well from BPN. As you can also see in the chat, all of our panelists have dropped in their contact information. Y'all connect. That's what we're here for. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your knowledge, taking some time out of your busy schedules. You all are amazing. And I will give a brief moment for our BPN exec board to introduce themselves, whoever's on the call. Like I said, hi everyone, I am Saray Mapp. I'm one of our co-chairs for programming, and Kiara Venegas, our other co-chair, could not be present today, but she does send greetings.
Hi everyone, what's poppin'? My name is Alexis. I use he and his pronouns. I'm the chair-elect for the Black Professional Network, and thank you again for all the gems that y'all dropped today. Really appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Joshua McFadder. I serve as the Communication and Marketing Chair for BPN and the Associate Director of Residence Life here at Temple University.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jafon Stubbs. I am a residence hall director here at University of Connecticut, and I am the member at large chair for the Black Professionals Network.
I was eyeballing. I think that's everyone. Thank you all so much for hopping on the call today. Panelists, if you want to hang out for a quick moment afterwards, everyone else, you can pop off. Thank you so much, like I said. And if you want to stay and ask the panelists a quick question, I'm sure they wouldn't super duper mind. Thanks, friends.